Today's presenters are Ken McDonald and Laura Schleckmeyer with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Ken McDonald has joined the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau as a financial education program analyst in the Office of Financial Education in August 2013. The Office of Financial Education is responsible for developing and implementing initiatives intended to educate and empower consumers to make informed financial decisions. He is responsible for forming relationships and strategic partnerships with financial education nonprofits, libraries, service providers to employees, and organizations within the financial services industry. Laura leads the development of effective financial education content in the Office of Financial Education across multiple audiences and media. She arrived at the CFPB with more than 15 years of experience in financial services and employee communication. She's led efforts to innovate, test, measure, and refine communication programs aimed at helping millions of employees avoid mistakes with their 401ks. She's also worked with human resources and benefits executives at Fortune 500 companies to develop comprehensive campaign explaining pensions, stock and incentive compensation, health and welfare benefits, early retirement, and more. So without further ado, I would like to turn the floor over to Ken McDonald.
Thank you, Mike. So before Laura and I get started here, we'd like to start out with our standard disclaimer that this presentation is being made by a representative of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on behalf of the Bureau. It does not constitute a legal interpretation, guidance, or advice of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And any opinions expressed or views expressed by Laura or I are our own and do not represent the views of the Bureau. Next slide, please, Mike. About the CFPB. The CFPB is a 21st century agency that helps consumer finance markets work by making rules more effective, by consistently and fairly enforcing those rules, and by empowering consumers to take more control over their financial lives. And it's that last part that Laura and I are here presenting to reinforce that effort. Mike, could you skip forward past Laura's? One more. One more. Laura?
All right. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everyone, for joining. I'm always kind of disoriented to see my pre-pandemic photo appear in these slides. Maybe some of you can relate. Here are today's topics. We are focusing on financial well-being and what employers can do to help people have more of it. So we'll pause for some questions a couple times during the slide presentation, but we'll still probably have some time at the end as well. But we will cover how to define financial well-being, the connection it has to emergency savings, how to build the skills among your workforce that can support it, and then how to measure it. So on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about what we hope you will leave today's session with, these specific outcomes. You'll have the definition of financial well-being at your fingertips. You'll know where to find support for emergency savings in the workplace and also know why that is so important. And you'll get to try out the financial well-being scale and see how that can serve as a meaningful tool for measuring financial wellness, and hopefully see ways that you can use it in your workplace to develop and measure the programs that really make a difference for your people. So to get started, on the next slide, let's look at where a lot of employers begin. The definition of financial well-being, there are many ways to look at it, and we will present to you the one that crystallized for us. On the next slide, a lot of employers start by, when they start to look at financial wellness or financial well-being, they start with the programs that they have in place and looking at usage or engagement with those programs. For example, you might look at health plan expenditures, see if people are making cost-effective decisions. Or especially today in the pandemic, you might take a look at retirement plan metrics like withdrawals and loans or changes in contribution rates and use that as a barometer for financial hardship. But it's hard to know whether you're looking at meaningful data, and it is often hard to connect individual behavior across different programs, different benefits, and different individual decisions. So it's not always a way to look at the whole picture on an individual level. So on the next slide, we pulled together a few definitions that we've seen in other places. You might have seen these. The ones you're reading here, like having access to assistance and resources that enable good financial decisions. These come from employers from a 2019 survey that the Employee Benefits Research Institute did. So already you can see there are some keywords and some key ideas that are emerging among these definitions, such as making good decisions, such as having security, planning ahead, things like that. So you'll see some of those words come up in a minute. But on the next slide, I'm going to show you we recognized that there was a need for a consensus definition. So a few years ago, the CFPB undertook a major research initiative, and this, we felt, could help all of us who are engaged in the work of lifting people up financially. So we researched and crystallized what we heard into this definition here, taken from interviews with people themselves about their own situations and with practitioners in the financial education field. And hopefully you agree that this brings together and sort of aligns with intuitions that we might all have about financial well-being, how it exists across the industry. So having control over your day-to-day and month-to-month finances, having the capacity to absorb a financial shock, and that could be, something large or something that feels like a shock to your own in your own situation. That you're on track to meet your financial goals. And the final piece, having the financial freedom to make the choices that allow you to enjoy life. So this is the definition that we kind of steer by. On the next slide, there's a little different way to look at it, just a different presentation of this. Having a sense of financial security and freedom of choice in the present and for the future. So I want to take a minute here just to direct your attention to the bottom left quadrant of this grid, making choices, having the financial freedom to make choices to enjoy life. And this really comes out of consumers' mouths. They consider they have financial well-being when their money situation allows them to do the things that make their lives enjoyable. This is different for every person, whether it's buying fashion or gadgets, or whether it's donating to causes or having time away from work, free time to do what they like. And that, I think, is the clearest example of what this definition does overall, because it lets us measure the differences in well-being among people with similar financial profiles, sort of like on paper, the same outward-facing profile. So people can have the same income, 401k balance, credit score, net worth, and have a very different subjective sense of their financial well-being. And that, I think, is the exciting contribution that this definition makes. And also, I would say vice versa. I might look worse on paper than my coworker can, but we might have exactly the same level of financial well-being, depending on how we see it. On the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about the intriguing part of the research, then starting from the point of, okay, here is what financial well-being means to people. How do we peel through what influences it? And what are the things that people have for higher financial well-being? What do those people have? So if we click one, thank you, to the next piece. The first is your financial situation. So the objective facts of your financial life do explain roughly 70% of your financial well-being. So there is a solid connection between sort of how you look on paper and your financial well-being, but there is more to it than that. There's also, the next bit is financial behavior. So this can come down to habitual behaviors like paying bills on time or sticking to a budget, day-to-day things that you do to improve your financial situation. And then going one click further, there are the skills that apply to financial decision-making. Often, how do you approach a new or an infrequently made decision, like a home loan or a car loan, something like that, finding and processing and using information that you haven't encountered before. So that takes us through the overall piece of understanding what financial well-being is and what it means. So what questions do you have for us so far before we enter into some of the areas where the workplace can be a channel to financial well-being?
We don't have any questions in the Q&A box nor the chat at the moment, Laura.
Okay, so let's, Ken, take it away.
Thank you. So now we're going to talk about one specific aspect about financial well-being in the workplace. And on the start of the next slide, we're going to talk about the role of emergency savings. Now, as Laura identified, objective financial situation explains about 70% of a financial well-being score. And one component of objective financial situation is emergency savings. And from our studies on the background data and collecting data for creating this scale, we have found that people with high levels of liquid savings have higher financial well-being. On average, financial well-being scores for adults are about 54. But those with less than $250 in liquid savings, we found had a score of 41, while those with $75,000 or more in liquid savings have a score of about 68. Now, I'd like to take a moment here. You may be familiar with the concept of teachable moments. In financial education, a teachable moment is a major life-changing event, such as starting a family, first-time home purchase, or retiring. And many of you in HR are familiar with these. These teachable moments rely on the individual going through the event to come forward and ask for the assistance. The COVID-19 experience is different. We are all going through this together at the same time. That makes this teachable moment very unique. And we believe many people will be receptive to the messaging of emergency savings. Next slide, please. And so we see here, many people are facing a financial hardship. Others have been able to boost their savings. In fact, according to a study by MassMutual in July of 2020, they found that 1 in 5 Americans saved at least $1,000 during the pandemic. The savings rate hit a record high of 33.5% in April of 2020, edging down to a still outsized 20.5% in January 2021, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. And before the pandemic, the savings rate was 7.5%. Next slide, please. So according to research from the Employee Benefit Research Institute in 2019, the survey that Laura had suggested earlier, Emergency Savings Fund was one of the top offerings within a financial well-being program, with nearly 44% are currently offering or planning to offer the option. So we have found that this is a popular option amongst employers. And on the next slide, what we have found, automated savings has been shown to be an effective method for protecting people to develop their savings habits. This is where employers can help. More than 70% of employees between the ages of 25 and 64 who are paid via direct deposit and expected to remain in their job for at least 1 year said that they would be very or somewhat likely to participate in a payroll deduction rainy day savings program if their employer offered one. Automated savings can be part of an overall financial wellness at work program that benefits employers through increased productivity and lower costs, and benefits employees through reduced stress and improved financial well-being. Employers can provide employees with timely, relevant, and actionable information about financial topics. And that takes us into the next slide. So having savings on hand for emergencies is important for financial well-being, as we identified earlier. Please share our tools to help people save for goals and weather shocks and surprises. We have tools on building an emergency fund, protect against unexpected with essential guides to building an emergency savings fund, tax time savings, find fast and easy ways to start building your savings with your tax refund. Why savings matters, Too many Americans aren't prepared for a financial emergency, and without savings, it can have a lasting impact on their financial well-being. Also, tools and start saving, from downloadable booklets to email boot camps, we have the tools and resources you need to start your savings journey and to get others started. I'd like to show a couple of these on the next slide, please. So I'm going to go over a couple of these tools here. And one of the things I'd like to emphasize here, all of the tools and resources, our consumer tools that we'll be going over with you here, are free. They are not copywritten, and you may feel free to use them however you see fit and however works best for your employees. You see here we have our savings booklet. This savings booklet helps individuals build savings through small goals. It will help the individuals prioritize and set their savings goals, prepare for unexpected expenses, find a place for savings, and make the most of a tax refund. Now, the savings booklet is available only in hard copy. There are several worksheets in it that fold out that is encouraged for individuals to mark up and add their personal information in it. So it doesn't lend itself to a PDF. But you can order these booklets free from our distributor in Pueblo, Colorado. And we also have the CFPB Savings Bootcamp. This is a 6-step email course that provides the foundation you need to start saving one small step at a time. Delivered directly to an inbox, each email provides valuable tips and resources to help individuals get their savings journey started. Steps include create your own savings goals, develop your own savings action plan, get a handle on your money, make your savings automatic, put your savings action plan to work, and plan for the future. And this goes directly into an individual. The only piece of information we gather is their email address, and then we send this on out to them. And at this point, I'd like to see if there are any questions. Or are there any questions for us?
We do have a couple of questions, Ken, and I'll ask you this one first. Are CFPB tools available in Spanish?
Yes, they are. Most of our tools are available in Spanish, and our website at consumerfinance.gov, the whole website has been converted into Spanish, so you can easily switch from between English and Spanish.
Mm-hmm. And we have another question, which is a great one, about during this COVID-19 time, many employees didn't receive pay or received partial pay. And so the question is about how financial well-being can support employees and protect them during these times of hardship, which is, that is really the question that is facing all of us at this time. As Ken mentioned, we do have a coronavirus site, so consumerfinance.gov/coronavirus has many resources that individuals can use to protect and manage their finances, things about how to prioritize bills if they're struggling, and then of course ways that they can recover and rebuild as we kind of come out of this together. Ken, what other things should we point out at this time?
Also within that, there's the EIP, the Economic Impact Payment. For those who have not received it, we do have information on that. And also I'd like to emphasize here, and Mike has put into the chat, that Mike will make available a PDF of the slide deck. And there are links in the slide deck that you'll see when we get towards the end. We have various hyperlinks put in there. When you get the PDF, you'll be able to click to some of these. And so there is, at the end on slide 40, a link for the coronavirus resources. We have them also to avoid scams and frauds. And I encourage all of you, if you have seniors, like I do have 2 seniors in my life, my father and stepmother, please watch out for them. Some of these scamsters are very heartless, and they're looking to take advantage of vulnerable people, especially in this time when so many seniors have been isolated for so long due to the coronavirus pandemic. So please go to there and check out the frauds and scams that we have identified, and they're constantly mutating. So please share that information with all of your employees.
I agree. And also there are new and time-limited protections on housing specifically evictions and foreclosures, that might be very timely to share with people if you know that they are struggling or if they're suffering loss of income. That's very important to get out the word on. So appreciate any help you can give on that.
And Laura and I will be highlighting. Oh, sorry, we'll be highlighting that link at the end of this of the presentation, so you'll see where it is.
Yes.
And that we turn it over to you, Laura.
Great. Okay. I see there's one more question in the chat, but I think we are going to answer that. So I'm going to hold off on that and make sure that we get there in the next couple of sections. So, as we move forward, the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention was another component of the financial well-being sort of dynamic that we outlined before, and that's about financial skills. So if we start in that section on the next slide, just as emergency savings can kind of contribute to objective financial situation, which is connected in large part to financial well-being, financial skill is also very interesting and also contains a number of things that we think are teachable. And so let's point out that financial skill and behavior in that chain of events that we saw earlier is much more strongly associated than financial knowledge and behavior. So let's begin on the next slide with some opportunities to practice these skills. First of all, we're talking about finding reliable information to make financial decisions. So sort of recognizing the need for that and going out and finding that information. Then processing that financial information that you've just gotten and apply it to a financial decision that you're facing. And then finally, execute the financial decision and adapt that as necessary over time to keep yourself on track. So that sounds very abstract, so we'll talk about a few examples in the coming slides. But you can probably relate in your own life to this statement at the bottom. People are much more likely to say they need to know how to do things than to turn on knowing a particular fact. We can always find those facts, but having the know-how and the how-to approach is often more useful. So let's continue to the next slide and see what it means to kind of stop and pause and find the reliable information that you need. So this is often key when you're encountering a situation that you haven't gotten to before, and continuing to seek out information until you know you found something that is from a reliable source. So that is a very key part of this skill that people need to have. So for example, you might decide that one of the reasons that you can use the 401k plan to save for your future is because you have trust that the plan provider, the investment options, the features of the plan have been vetted by the employer. That makes that a way for you to find reliable information about this decision. On the next slide, I'll illustrate the step of processing information and applying to it. So once you have that reliable information, you need to filter it and know what is the most relevant to your own situation. There are so many pros and cons, and people need to really understand how to compare their options and evaluate them based on what the information is they've located. So if the decision in front of this person is to save for retirement, it's important to know the differences between, say, an individual retirement account and the retirement plan, compare them on the level that they care about, whether that's contribution level or taxes or investments, all of those decisions. So being able to essentially comparison shop for potential solutions to their financial decision. Then the third step on the next slide is to execute the decision and adjust it over time to stay on track. So first, this is a little bit of self-knowledge and a little bit of self-confidence in order to identify how you yourself can act on information, how to motivate yourself to take that first step, and then to stick with the plan and adapt it if needed for changes or opportunities that come up along the way. So, and that is tied to a key characteristic like your own self-confidence in your ability to actually effectuate a change in your situation. So these things, when you communicate, when you aim to improve financial well-being in the workplace, look for opportunities to lift some of these principles and these skills higher in the communication so that people know and can recognize what they're doing. This is intended to help you comparison shop, things like that. Rather than sort of centering it around the financial information that you're providing. So I think we'll move now into the area of measurement, and that comes back to Ken.
Well, first, Laura, we have a couple of questions. And I think these are rather interesting questions because they present a couple of scenarios in which we may try to figure out how to help an individual. So one question here: what is your suggestion in motivating millennials or younger generations to contribute to retirement funds as they are mostly inclined to opting for cash rather than saving in retirement funds?
There's a lot of really interesting research and interventions that are being developed for this. One of them, we have some researchers in our group that are working on the idea of visualizing your future self. The more vivid you can make your retirement self, or even your self 10 years from now, the more care you will take and the more long-term thinking you will exhibit. So we have some tools and resources that can help you have a conversation with yourself in 10 years or 20 years, and tactics like that that make the future moment more vivid in the present.
And I think our measurement tool might also be able to be enlightened in this, provide some guidance as well. The second question is, it's being observed from real life scenarios that many employees, while using credit cards, got overburdened financially sometimes. What is your suggestion in that case for the prudent use of credit cards and not to be overburdened with credit card usage?
Mm-hmm. I mean, this seems to me, I think we'll talk a little bit about how that kind of affects financial well-being generally. I would hate to, like, obviously we can provide lots of information and tools on how to manage credit, how to make sure you're not being taken advantage of by add-ons, by additional services, to make sure that you're staying within the metrics that improve your credit score, things like that. Overall, I think the contribution of credit card usage and debt overall to financial well-being, I think you will see that there is a connection there, and it might make more sense to approach it from that level of financial well-being rather than to solve for a particular product usage. But that's, again, it can be different for different people at different times.
And we also do have a couple of resources. In addition to the booklet that we showed you earlier on savings, we do have one on credit. We do have one on debt. We also have a saving boot camp, not just in savings, but getting a handle on debt. So for those who may feel overwhelmed, we do have resources that can help you with that. So, thank you very much, Laura. What?
Since we're here, we're about to start the measurement solution. I just want to answer the question that came in from Daria to say, are these solutions considered global solutions? What Ken is about to show you is been adapted cross-culturally and across a number of different nations. I believe Brazil and Finland are also using the solution that we're about to be introduced to.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. And if we could go to the next slide. So this is where we're going to come to, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. And so we have a way of doing that. So if you all could look in the chat, let me make sure it went through. I just put a link in the chat. If you go to the next slide, please. And the next one, please. Okay, so if you all go to the link and click on that link, this is what is currently showing on your slide is what you will see. And this is the financial well-being scale. We'd like for you all to take a couple minutes, go to the link and complete the score. So there are only 10 questions. If you go through the 10 questions, and at the bottom, it'll ask you whether your age is 18 to 62 or 62 and older. And then click Get Your Score. So we'll wait a couple minutes while everyone goes onto that link. Okay, so if we could go to the next slide, please. So what you all should have seen that after you've completed the questionnaire and click Get Your Score, you'll see that first box that says Get Your Financial Score. It will pop up a score for you, and will also put you where you fit with the national average. You will also have this, you'll see the box that says, what would you like to do next? And the what you'd like to do next, there are some ideas in here with links to resources that will help you build and work on certain money management skills that you may need to have some improvement on. And then you'll see in the fourth box here, how your score compares to our averages. You'll see how your score compares with other people in various age brackets. We'll also see it by income, and you'll also see it by employment status. We all like to see how we compare with other people, and this scale does allow you to be able to do that. If you go to the next slide, please. So as we said before, a lot of things we have are free. This is one of them as well. This is publicly available. It is free of cost. There's no charge at all for you to use this, and it is free from copyright. The 10 questions provide an accurate reading of a person's financial well-being. The financial well-being scale is publicly available, free of cost, free from copyright. And we have the code that creates this is open sourced, and developers can use the code along with the technical report to recreate the scale and the scoring calculation that you can apply for your own population. And on the next slide, you'll see what the scale asks. Now, you probably noticed when you took this score that there weren't any questions asking you what's your income or how much do you have savings for retirement right now. This is because each person's situation is unique and subjective, and it is hard to describe financial well-being using only numbers like income, net worth, or credit scores. Instead, we asked people around the country what financial being meant to them, and we actually listened to them. And that's a result, this scale is a result of that. We learned that financial well-being means having financial security and financial freedom of choice in the present as well as in the future. And that was that box that Laura showed, the green box with the 4 quadrants in it that we go over a lot. And you'll see these questions here are probably something you weren't expecting to get. One of my particular favorites on here is giving a gift for a wedding, birthday, or other occasion would put a strain on my finances for the month. I like how this really gets at things that individuals will actually encounter. Next slide, please. So we find that the score is stable. A person's financial well-being score is generally stable and should not vary much from day to day. Use the questionnaire to measure changes in financial well-being over time in individuals and in populations such as your employee base. It can be used to measure the impact of any financial well-being program or benefit. So this can be used by your HR department as a way to measure the impact of any financial wellness benefits or programs you are offering. And on the next slide, you'll see here we have the score ranges, and you'll see various characteristics here for the various scores. And to highlight a few of them, individuals with a very low score of 0 to 29, just 5% are certain they could come up with $2,000 for an emergency. Again, underlying the need for an emergency savings. In the medium-low category, a score of 38 to 49, almost all, 80%, find it somewhat or very difficult to make ends meet. At the high end of 58 to 67, very few, only 6%, have experienced a credit rejection or are concerned about a credit rejection. and a very high score of 68 to 100, the majority, 69%, make automated deposits into a savings or into a retirement account. On the next slide, the scale is used as a self-service model. So offer the questionnaire on your site, or you could do by a link to the CFPB. Either way is fine with us. The person answers the questions independently, as you saw that you did, and takes action based on their experience. And you saw that we did provide opportunities for an individual to take action then and there. It can be incorporated as a first step in interacting with a financial wellness program. And the person can keep a copy of their results and measure changes over time. On the next slide, the scale can also monitor your program's effectiveness. So you could administer the questionnaire across your workforce. You could incorporate into annual benefits or employee satisfaction surveys. And we've learned of a few employers that have actually used the questions in the scale and incorporated it into their annual employee satisfaction survey. And as Laura had identified, countries such as Brazil, Norway, and Finland have decided to use the scale for their populations. You can re-administer the scale periodically to monitor progress. And you can aggregate data, can help you measure the impact of programs across the workforce. And then to monitor success, remember when we said the score isn't going to change on a day-to-day basis, but it could change over time, but you must give it more time. On the next slide, we're measuring over time. The financial well-being score is intended to be very stable over time. This is what makes it a good method for measuring change with an individual person or within specified groups. A change in the range of 3 to 5 points may be reasonable for a person to experience after working through a financial wellness program for about 6 months or more. So we see a recommendation of 6 or more months of a program. And the score should respond to an actual change in the person's situation. So this would reflect whether that individual, after going through that program, did see some financial improvement and actually probably changed their overall financial behaviors, and more importantly, the way they view their finances, hopefully in a way that is less intimidating and less scary to them. On the next slide, here's some resources we have for implementing the questionnaire. You can download the questionnaire. We have it in English and in Spanish, and implement the questionnaire as you wish, perhaps on your website or as part of the survey. You can direct people to the online scale of the CFPB's website, which is available in both English and Spanish. The CFPB code is open source, so developers can use the code and the technical report to recreate the scale and scoring calculations. The CFPB continually conducts analyses and publishes benchmarking data. For example, we have published reports on the financial well-being scores by state, for older Americans, for service members, for Hispanics, and for various other populations. And if you are interested in the data that we used in the background data for the scale, you can download the 2016 survey data. All this is free, encouraged for use, and not copywritten. And again, as Mike has identified, PDF of these slides will be available to you, and all these hyperlinks you will be able to click on. The next slide, please. So Laura and I, like I said, we are on your side to see if, how to apply financial well-being in everyday situations. We do have a couple reports that we thought would be of particular interest to you. The first being financial well-being, what is it and how to help? This short digest to understand the factors that have influenced individuals' financial well-being in key areas where you may be able to help people better balance, ask, plan, and act in their financial lives. And a lot of this was stuff that Laura had gone over earlier in our presentation. We've also have a document, 5 principles and how to use them. And these are 5 principles of effective financial education. These are pointers on creating effective financial education materials and programs for your workforce. And these principles can be used if you have a well-established financial well-being program and are looking for new ways to spice it up or change it or update it or to modify it. Or if you're thinking about starting a financial wellness program and you're not sure where to get started, these 5 principles may be of help to you. On to the next slide. And now we are here on your side. You should go on to the next slide, please. So we have more resources here for the CFPB. For your workforce, the Managing Protecting Finances During the COVID-19 that Laura and I both alluded to, there's a hyperlink there. Ask CFPB, a question and answer format on a huge range of topics from bank accounts to mortgages to student loans. We also have lots of objective and unbiased materials, including worksheets, fact sheets, calculators, boot camps, podcasts, and videos. And that hyperlink will take you to our consumer tools. All of that stuff is free and it is not copywritten. And many of the resources can be co-branded as well. And you may also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And Laura?
Yes, and then for you to use, for those of you who are working on program development, implementation, and measurement, the CFPB is your federal source for publicly available research and data. No registration required, as Ken points out. This is all freely available. We provide data and reports on consumer experiences with financial services. Our guides, research on what we have done to make financial education move beyond knowledge into producing more of effect on financial well-being. You can order free printed publications that you can share with the people in your workplace at no cost to you. We ship them directly to you. And you can also sign up to receive periodic emails from us, not constant, not overwhelming, but updates when we have tools, resources, and research that you can apply in your work. You can also join us on LinkedIn, where we have a discussion group where people often talk about the things that they are working on and researching. So that is for people who are in the business of helping others with financial well-being.
So Laura, we have a few questions here that I think we can answer very easily. First one is, what is the typical guidance when someone has a fair amount of credit card debt when it comes to how to use their money? Pay down debt before saving, save before paying down debt, 50-50?
Great question. The Bureau is also very interested in this question, and we recently released a report on some real life research that we did to see how people actually behave when they are faced with this question. As you're saying, a lot of people are in the situation where they now have to make that choice. So in the data and reports section of consumerfinance.gov, you will find this. It's called the credit and debt puzzle, and I'll save you a click right now. The answer is that most people do both. They use their available money to do both, pay down debt and put some into savings.
And then we do have some resources in the booklets that we referred to. There's the one on savings, there's the one on debt, there's one on credit, and our boot camps can also help individuals get focused. The boot camps give them actionable steps, simple actionable steps that they can take. We have another question here. As more and more younger generations stepping into the workforce, how can we help them plan ahead to ensure their financial well-being? She described our job.
Yes, we all need to work on this. And let's consider also that financial well-being does mean today as well as planning ahead, right? So we do want them to develop the habits and skills that they can use today that turn into behaviors they can rely on that affect their financial situation and their financial well-being. So a lot of it is developing skills, developing the habits that ensure greater financial security and freedom of choice. It's a vague answer. Perhaps if you can, maybe you have some more concrete ideas.
I would start out with an emergency savings plan. Make sure, this is one of the things that I remember back in the day when I was first coming into the work world, the saying of pay yourself first. Treat your savings as a bill that you should pay. Again, we have some of the boot camps to manage that. The other thing you could do is encourage them to take our financial well-being scale. And when they go through the scale, then they see those action points at the end. They can start clicking on those. The scale will probably help them think through maybe where they need to emphasize. What are some of the points they want to work on first? And so yes, go ahead, Laura.
I do second that recommendation, as probably most of you when you went through it. It's not intended to be a diagnostic. You don't get to the end of it saying you should work on your credit score or you should save more for retirement, but it does bring, as you're taking the questions inside yourself, you are thinking to yourself, that's what I need to work on. And so that is part of the process of taking the scale that I think is a helpful one.
We have another question. Are you aware of any companies who have tried to make, keeps moving around me, who tried to make this material applicable not only to US employees, but have expanded it to their global populations? I know we're more aware of within the United States, within multinationals, are they doing this as well? We are aware of a few that are doing this, but they will modify it to their particular populations. So if you have an American company that has facilities, say in the Philippines, in Ethiopia and Brazil, they will need to modify it to meet those particular circumstances because the financial systems will be set up differently. But some of the principles will remain the same. And as we found with the scale, as Brazil, Norway, and Finland have incorporated the scale into their cultures, that there are some things that are universal that the scale does cover, and also our 5 principles for effective financial education. And Laura, would you want to go a little bit over that? You were involved in that research.
Yes, I agree. I think that it can be expanded to a global population. I think we're confident that the scale itself can be translated into multiple languages and be cross-language and cross-cultural. It is intended to be universal. So the scale for sure. The principles of effective financial education, I think, do need to be applied to the situation that you're in. I do things like the principle is to make sure you are connecting with the people that you're talking to provide just-in-time information for decisions that they're facing, to help them, stick to a decision that they have made. All of that kind of thing is, again, universal, cross-cultural.
Let's keep moving. We do have a question here. This looks like it's more for Mike. Is this an ongoing series through July? And if so, will you send an invitation? I imagine World at Work is having this as a series. Is that correct, Mike?
I believe is Wellness Wednesdays going to happen every Wednesday so far. We only have up until April. You would have to go to the World at Work webinar section and register for these events.
Thank you. We also have one, this one here's a bit more detailed. How does home ownership play into retirement planning? If someone is closer to retirement age, should paying down a mortgage be a higher priority than contributing to a 401k? This is bordering in the realms of a personal financial advice, which we don't do. We could probably provide you with tools and resources to help you understand the context of your decision, but it's not something that we would ever go out and say, oh, yes, you should do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And I think that there's clearly a mathematical answer to this. You could calculate, what money is saved from paying, more on my mortgage compared to contributing to a 401k, run those numbers forward to retirement based on assumed rate of return. There's a mathematical way to answer that question. And there's also what I would say, like the financial well-being way to answer that question. Which alternative makes the individual feel more in control of their money? Which of those makes the person feel more like they are securing their future, which that turns into what that person wants to work on.
And also, I would always just encourage, remember, something like a pandemic can actually happen. So always make sure you have that emergency savings and your back covered. And we have one more question here. In what scenario financial well-being ideal will not work? Oh, wow, that's I hadn't thought about that. I think he tricked us here on this one. Since financial well-being is so personally defined, I can't think of a scenario off the top of my head at the moment of where it would not work. I mean, it gives you a definition of where you're at and where you can head to and these overlying goals. But as Laura identified at the beginning, you could take two people that are in very different financial situations, one a fairly wealthy individual, one a fairly poor individual financially, but they could both feel like they have a good sense of financial well-being. It is so individually defined.
Yes, I think that is the key idea that we want to make sure is clear. I will say the sort of limits of this are sometimes a factor of environment. The environment in which the person finds themselves might constrain their choices. Just to make a very plain example, if your company does not offer a 401k plan, you don't have access to 401k plan savings. So financial well-being can help you do a lot of things, but they can't help you create an opportunity out of thin air. You might have to break your environment, change the decision context that you're in, something like that, because it does operate. Financial well-being does operate inside the environment you're in.
But I'd like to say thank you for that question. That made us think differently, and that's always helpful for us. So really an excellent question.
I see one more. Oops, I'm sorry. I see one more in the chat, Ken. There is a question about why is it that the older the person, the higher the score? And that is also a really intriguing question. And I think it comes back to essentially what the contributors are to financial well-being. So your financial situation for older people tends to be a little bit more stable, a little bit more established. Some of the costs that you have as a younger person have been taken care of. Then your behavior is also probably more, you have more skills, you have more habits, you have developed healthier habits over your years. And then coming down to financial skill, you've had more opportunities to practice those skills, those decision-making skills, put them into action, and get yourself to stick to directions over time. So that's that to me is the connection between age and score, but we have a lot of analysis about that in our original research results.
Thank you. And that concludes all of our questions. And we now turn it over to our host, Mike.
Thank you, Ken and Laura, so much for sharing your knowledge and time with us. This webinar will be available for playback for up to 90 days. Simply log into worldatwork.org to access your profile, but please allow 24 hours for that playback to appear. A reminder that we are going to send out a short survey at the end of the event. We highly appreciate your feedback. If you have not downloaded the presentation from the chat pod, I believe the link is still available in the Q&A pod for you to open up. There should be an answer in there. I'm going to stop the recording to pull up the HRCI and SHRM code slides momentarily. I just wanted to thank you, everyone.